Cornerback or wide receiver? That's the next topic of conversation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have two pressing needs right now. Cam Sutton suspended for 8 games in the regular season. The Steelers still don't have a wide receiver 2. It is July 11th. No moves will be made as of right now. That's not what this conversation. What is the next move? No. What is the bigger move? That is where the Pittsburgh Steelers stand. They have just over $15 million in cap space. They will most likely use at least some, if not most, of that money before the start of the regular season. Corner versus wide receiver. I got thoughts here. Your thoughts. What's the bigger need? Not the next need. What's the bigger need for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Of those two, I think undoubtedly, to me, it's the wide receiver. You have to go out and get a wide receiver, especially because you look at what the Steelers have on defense outside of slot corner. They have enough talent. They have enough ability to make up for that hole. On offense, it remains to be seen. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of question marks. Obviously, what do these quarterbacks look like? What does Arthur Smith's offense look like? And does it lend to having some lesser talented, but still talented nonetheless, wide receivers when it comes to guys like Scotty Miller and Van Jefferson? I think you're a lot more confident if you bring in a wide receiver 2 than if you bring in a slot cornerback. I just think that there's a bigger need at wide receiver. Not to say that it's a 100%. If you don't get it, the season's over, because it's not. But I think that you're a lot more confident if you bring in a wide receiver 2 and where the level of this team goes than you are if you just bring in another slot cornerback.
Okay. I agree. I agree with that with the talent wise, because you could put a Graylin, or an Arnold Graylin. I keep saying that name backwards. A Josiah Scott. You could put an Anthony Averett in there and say, all right, this isn't great, but we can make it work. I don't have any faith in Van Jefferson or Quez Watkins. Scotty Miller's looked like the best of them, and that's scary. It's not where the Pittsburgh Steelers want to be. You could bank on Calvin Austin, but I think it's too early to bank on Calvin Austin. I agree with you. The jump that you will take if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers when it comes to a wide receiver over a corner is pretty significant. And I think that is by far their biggest need. But I will make the argument, just to play devil's advocate here, that if the Steelers are going to win by running the football, being secure on offense, and not giving up points on defense, which is what their formula is right now, then going out and getting a guy who is going to be just as productive as Cam Sutton was going to be probably keeps you in a much at that same level than a wide receiver 2. Because wide receiver 2 is great and you're probably going to score more points, but is Jamar Chase going to score 3 touchdowns and have 150 yards on you both times because you don't have anybody to defend him? And the Giants, Malik Neighbors can play everywhere. That's a big one. But you have Atlanta with Drake London in the middle, Kyle Pitts in the middle. There are names to watch when it comes to a slot corner position. I just think that if you're going to keep yourself at a baseline, corner keeps you there. Whereas a wide receiver brings you up, but also, maybe Russ stinks and now it doesn't really make a difference. Justin Fields stinks. Maybe it doesn't make a difference. Talent-wise, it's wide receiver. I think biggest need is easily wide receiver. Would you spend the money on wide receiver? Say, let's lay a situation out here. You got a corner worth $3 million, easy signing, makes it a big impact. Patrick Peterson, Ahkello Witherspoon, Stephon Gilmore, name like that available on the roster. $3 million. Brandon Ayuk, 15 plus a massive contract. You can't do them both. What one are you going with?
If I'm in the thought process of Omar Khan, which is Super Bowl or bust, I go for Brandon Ayuk. Simply because also that's not a wide receiver 2 to me. That is a wide receiver 1A, and you have a 1A situation with him and George Pickens. But if I'm in the headspace that Omar Khan seemingly has been in all summer long, I say, all right, we're going to try to outscore that problem at slot corner by bringing in one of the top receivers in the National Football League, and we're going to go do that right now because that brings you closer ultimately to a Super Bowl. It's easier to go out there and get the $3 million slot corner, and it does shore up what should be a top 5 defense. But at the same time, if you can get that offense to be even top 12 and have a top 10 defense, that puts you in a pretty good position in the AFC.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm going wide receiver, and I'm not even thinking about it. I'd give up the first round pick. That's the thing, is if you go and win a Super Bowl this year, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is next year. You won a Super Bowl this year. You know,
Yeah.
you'll figure it out next year. You'll win a Super Bowl this year. That's all you have to do. So I agree with you. The wide receiver is a big one. More likely. Let's say finish it with that one. More likely.
More likely is the cornerback situation.
Yeah.
Because one, there's no acquisition cost. It's somebody that's on the open market right now looking for work. And two, the price is certainly much more palatable for the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm easily going the corner, but I will say that I don't think wide receiver is much farther behind. I will say that if the door opens, if this conversation happened in 2.5 weeks, I think they're pretty neck and neck because that door is it is open. But I would say in a month, the end of August, wide open. Door is wide open.
Especially because you'll see who's actually available on the wide receiver side of things. Right now, you can see everybody that's available on the corner side of things. Wide receivers, it's like, well, they might be available, but we got to wait until training camp. They might be, again, it's this thing that you mentioned. In a month, we'll have a better idea of what the field looks like.
Yep. And for right now, and when that month happens, if nothing does happen, because they could toss Josiah Scott out there and feel totally fine, Beanie Bishop and everybody else, and say, hey, we're going to wait it out. Patrick Peterson will be on the market. We're not really worried about it. In a month, it could be, hey, what decision are you going to make? They're going to go Brandon Ayuk. They're going to go Cortland Sutton. They're going to go. That's the only names I'm going to toss out there because I almost said DK Metcalf, and that's not going to happen. Okay.
No.
So we'll toss out the realistic ones as we continue to go.